we are here again on the main stage, and right now I have to introduce you to, again, as I mentioned, I am kind of the digital host here in Riga, but we have lots of amazing moderators and hosts all around the world, and right now we are traveling to Sweden, because if you want to know something about marine and water management in Sweden, there's one person you have to look for, and that is no one else than Ingela Isaksson. Ingela, a pleasure to see you this early morning. How did you enjoy the party last night?
Pleasure to see you too, Edgar.
How did you enjoy the party last night?
I really enjoyed it. And the music was fabulous. It was really nice, and the quiz, of course. I wasn't quick enough, so I ended up quite low, unfortunately.
But you look very energized despite the long party last night, so I hope that the workshop session will be not only very entertaining, but also very informationful. And I know that it's a very important topic to discuss, and we are already looking forward to it. So I think I will, first of all, give you the word for a few opening words, just to bring us in of the topic of this discussion and this workshop, and later on we can get the participants online involved with some word clouds and pools during this workshop as well.
Thank you, Andrews. Edgar, sorry. So, dear MSP friends, I feel privileged to have the opportunity to guide you through this session. Just some short introductory words that were said by Edgar, just for this exciting topic of multi-level governance for the coast and the sea, the new normal. Marine spatial planning is about the future, one process amongst others, with the ocean governance towards a sustainable society. Planning is about aligning different sector policies, dialogue. The crucial, and together with scenario building, part of the solution. Building future scenarios and think about where do we want to go. We know that it's important that all administrative levels are well connected, both within countries as well as between countries and beyond sea basins, assuring that everyone are on board, or as we say in the Baltic, better together. But how is this made in practice? We will, during this session, hear an exchange of a practical experience from different Baltic Sea region countries in governing land and sea spaces. And I'm sure that our prominent speakers, out of their experience from different administrative levels, will provide us with some suggestion on how to improve the multi-level governance agenda on sustainable blue economy and spatial planning in the Baltic Sea region. So, may I now kindly ask the organizers to please open the word cloud. We would like to create a word cloud. It's open? Okay, good, brilliant. So this word cloud for everyone writing in an answer to the question, what comes to your mind as the most important thing for good governance and cooperation across all levels? So, while you are filling in the word cloud, we will move on to our presenter in this session. And may I welcome Anita Līvija Rozenvalde from the Ministry of Environmental and Regional Development in Latvia. And sorry for the pronouncing of your name. Hopefully I got it nearly right at least. And Anita, she's an academic background as an urban planning, and she's also the co-author of the multi-level governance agenda for blue growth and spatial planning in the Baltic Sea region within the Land Sea Act project that will be presented here. So Anita, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ingela, and hello, dear colleagues. My name is Anita, and I'll give you a short little insight into the multi-level governance agenda for the Baltic Sea region, which we are currently drafting in the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Regional Development here in Latvia within the Land Sea Act project. First, I'd like to have a short thank you to my colleagues who entrusted this huge task to me. And I'd like to remind everyone that if you have any comments and questions, please put them in the chat box, and I will attend them in a few moments after the presentation. So if you'll forgive me my trembling voice a little bit, and this is my debut on the MSP stage. But more importantly, this project has been my debut into the MSP world. And it has been a very difficult journey, because at first, when I was first introduced to this project, a little less than a year ago, I did not understand what any of the words that you currently see on the screen mean. Maybe, well, my own name, of course, and the ministry. But at the same time, I had no clue what multi-level governance means. So here, I've laid out a short little sort of definition that will be used for the purposes of this presentation, and which is used also for the document of what multi-level governance actually is. So it is a collaborative and cooperative way of innovation-focused governance facilitated across all relevant governance levels within and beyond the borders of the governable territory in intersection with non-government stakeholders. So of course this is a very broad sort of definition, very boiled down. It's for our own use, and it encompasses such complex concepts that we are unable to put those in one sentence or one paragraph, but I have put them in a little scheme there for you. And this is just to sort of emphasize that when we talk about multi-level governance, we're not just talking about governance levels coming together, we're talking about these leading governance levels consulting and cooperating with their higher up governance levels like the national government, and consulting also with their neighbors. So if we talk, for example, about the municipal governments, then we'd like to see them interact with the national government and also their neighbors, neighboring municipalities. So this is just shortly on the multi-level governance part of the equation. So I'll be moving forward to the agenda part of it. So the multi-level governance agenda is proposed to be approximately 15-page document. Well, we are hoping a little bit less. And we are hoping to address the sort of governance level stakeholders, so the ones that are actually the leaders of governance actions. So while we emphasize the necessity to include communities and include scientists and experts, we also recognize that the governing bodies that lead this process actually are the core of it, and it is their task to invite the rest of the stakeholders in. And the aim of the agenda is not to prescribe. We are really, really focused on just outlining the principles and then giving guidance, because it is absolutely impossible to prescribe something to such a big region, such a colorful region, because as we know, each of the countries around the Baltic Sea have a different legislative process, different planning processes, and it is absolutely, it would be improper to make it all homogeneous. So the agenda actually consists, first of all, of a policy and literature background review, which are really important in establishing the land-sea interface issues, problems, and the way that it has been currently addressed. But at the same time, this section sort of leads on to why multi-level governance is actually quite useful in approaching these issues and how that could be done. So about that a little bit later. So the next section in the agenda is the key principles of multi-level governance. So these are overarching for the entire process and should be kept in mind all throughout. And all throughout, I mean the steps. So the agenda is laid out in several steps that we envision as a part of the multi-level governance process. And these two work in kind of a synergy, but the steps are a little bit more flexible. They're not supposed to be in a specific order that is adjustable to context, and we're really wanting this agenda to come out flexible and adjustable for each of your own contexts. So more about the key principles. So the key principles that we'd like to see implemented in any multi-level governance action, first of all, is for it to be niche. We're wanting to address the small or big issues, the very complicated ones that we haven't been able to get through to with our current and more traditional ways of governance. This is really, really key. And we don't want to repeat ourselves because, of course, multi-level governance with the whole big inclusion of stakeholders can be quite time and resource intensive. So we don't want any of that to go to waste, and we need to squeeze as much as possible out of it. So if you take a look at the picture here, that is my own picture, and it's taken on a beach here in Latvia. I think it was Lapmešciems. But it is an extreme close-up, and you can see the different colors, the different shapes there. And if we were to take a similar picture somewhere else around the Baltic Sea coast, it would be completely different. And this is the same kind of idea that I want to emphasize with saying that we need to use a place-based approach. Because really, any of the contexts, like 5 kilometers away, will be completely different, and we can never apply the same exact copied principles to the same situations. And the next principle I'd like to emphasize is the process should reflect cyclicality of processes in planning. So as we know, the interactions between humans and nature and environment are rapidly changing and developing. And the same we can say for planning itself. So really the governance processes and governance ways should adjust to that. Next, I'd like to say that we really need to respect the heritage of governable spaces, territories, and communities. Because while we are expecting a lot of change, while we are wanting a lot of change, we still need to respect what's already there, what is actually rooted into the existing settings, and what sort of builds it. Another thing is that we keep in mind in the agenda is to plan for realistic timelines, because while in the agenda we don't prescribe a certain time frame that you need to fit within to be called multi-level governance, it is really, really crucial to keep in mind that multiple stakeholder engagement takes quite a bit of time. It needs to be planned out. And the last one, which was thoroughly emphasized in our own communications within, throughout the drafting process, one of the first things that I learned is that we need to put measurability and trackability into the processes from the outset. Because if you don't plan for that from the outset, you'll end up not being able to describe what's actually changed. And we really need to see the change because it is immediately needed. So the one principle that I haven't put up here is engaging stakeholders. It should be pretty obvious that this whole multi-level governance thing is about engaging stakeholders and going beyond the governing entities, really engaging with the community, the businesses who have the local specific knowledge pool, and also scientists who hold the theoretical and more scientific knowledge. So, moving on, we're putting these principles into the steps. These steps are really, as I said, not in a specific order. I mean, some of them make logical sense in one order more than another. But again, this should be adjusted to the specific planning process that is in question. And all of these steps consist in the agenda of a guiding question, first of all, to sort of lead you on to the idea where you should get with the step. And then we have a description and a definition that sort of lays out the step in front of you to see what you should see once you've answered the question. And then each of the steps also has a tips and tools section, which we hope may aid practitioners in sort of getting around to that step and realizing it. And then also illustrations, which is a really important part that I'll talk about later as well. This is just to emphasize that all of this happens in reality and it is experience-based. And there are certain ways to walk around some pitfalls and maybe some best practices. And all of these illustrations are coming from the Lanciac project partner case studies. They have done a big and great work in that regard. So the steps themselves. So the first step is a policy background review. This is the step where we really need to establish our niche. This is where we either know our governance is lacking or policy, or we recognize a big problem, big issue in our lives, in our governance, and then we start to search for the roots of it in our policy and governance processes. And once we have the niche, it is important to take a look at step 2. So step 2 is about scoping governance and stock taking, because once we know what exactly we might want to address, we need to know what elements are sort of included in this process, in this issue. We need to know what elements we're working on, what is their baseline, what are they looking like, and how many of them there are. And it would be also very important to, at this stage, to sort of see what form might governance take, which might best address all of these elements all together. So then, once we've determined that, well, not in any particular order again, but step 3, stakeholder recognition and mapping. This is a very, very emphasized and important step because we are talking about multi-level governance. So this step mostly focuses on realizing who will be influenced by governance and who can influence governance. We want to have a wide knowledge pool, and we want to engage everyone in a planned manner, because as soon as you don't recognize someone, it takes a little bit more time and adjustment later to include them. And this is where sort of opposition starts. If you've forgotten someone and you've come up with something very, very dislikable for them, it might take more time to regain their trust and get adjusted later. So after step 3 comes step 4, which is creating a governance lead team. Many of our partners said at the beginning, this actually should be like step 0 or step 2. But I just put this there like that because it really makes sense for me that when we know stakeholders, then we can sort of identify the key ones, the ones who will be drivers of action. So this is who that is, and depending on the situation, it might be completely different people, it might be different groups. So for example, some might engage a community member, but some might just rely on scientists, depending on the situation and the question. So then step 5, strategizing, scenario building, and solution modeling. All of this is sort of just touching around and about of what could be done in governance processes. Of course, not everyone has to build solutions and scenarios, but the way it is this is the part where we plan out the action, where we see what we could do, how that might pan out. And it's really important to mention here that even though step 6 is multi-level assessment and mediation among stakeholders, this sort of ideas bringing in from stakeholders should already come into step 5, sorry. So it's really up to anyone who's engaging in the governance process where to engage these stakeholders, but these steps, the division between stakeholder engagement in these steps, should really be planned out from the outset. And then after step 6 comes step 7, which is adoption and implementation. This is more of a legislative, more technical step, but it is also very important because this is when we design into our governance action what will happen later. And we need to give it the legislative base and the technical base. So after that, step 8, monitoring of problem definition-based indicators. This is about the measurability and trackability of our governance action. It is important not only to have numbers and big charts, it is also important to track qualitative measures, and it shouldn't always be relied just on quantitative. And we should also keep in mind that all of our actions that we've done in our own process should be recorded, just so we can keep up in time what we've done wrong or right. And later on, step 9, I think this is a consistent step actually, learning from the results. Every action that we take, we need to analyze, evaluate. I know some of you will say that you can't really have the resources always for evaluating everything, but if you've recorded it, then someone else might be able to do it, and that might be really useful. So the biggest part that we still have a lot of work to do on is including our Lanciac project cases into the agenda. So, right. So here you can see a map with all of the Lanciac project cases that we've facilitated throughout these several years, actually. And you can see a big scope geographically. And this is very important because we want to really draw conclusions and lessons from diverse backgrounds. And the main problem that we've encountered up until now is that our cases, some of them are really exploratory. So they don't, by definition, they're not governance actions, so they don't go by our steps. So it's sometimes really difficult to illustrate what we've come up with these cases. However, they do give a great base for analyzing and for drawing lessons and getting some tips. And we will be working really, really hard to include all of them and maximize their sort of gathered knowledge use into the document. And that really is the biggest part that we'll be working on later. Even after this conference, I'll probably be going through all the workshops to try and see what also I can get from there. And I will probably be pulling my hair out a little bit as well, because there's so much that we haven't managed to include yet. But we'll really try. And right after the conference, we have meetings. We're planning to adjust the document even more. And soon, hopefully in autumn, we'll have a peer review process as well. And we're hoping to publish the agenda as soon as the end of 2021. And that really is it from me. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'll hand you back to the moderators. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for sharing, Anita, with a great enthusiasm about collaborative, innovative-based planning, surely bringing a fresh view to the development of marine spatial planning. Great food for thought. So I'm looking forward to the final version of the paper. Edgars, may I please ask you to show the word cloud that we started up the session with?
Absolutely.
And then also open the interactive poll session at the same time, maybe?
That's a good suggestion as well. We will start the pool questions right away, but let's have a look at the workload, because this one was a big workload. And I think people heard what you said, because you mentioned dialogue in your opening speech and communicating and discussing with each other and really getting together. And dialogue is also the word that we see as the most present one in our workload. Could we have it on the screen as well, and so that everyone could see it?
Exactly, and I always notice cooperation, and I think that's one of the most important things, to see and look beyond borders. Not only borders within your own country, there are administrative borders, but the water doesn't feel the administrative borders. So I think it's so important that we cooperate and have a collaboration around these questions.
A really bright and meaningful workload, and I think that everyone who heard this first workshop or has been participating so far really agrees with everything mentioned in this workload. But as you mentioned, we will also have a poll question, and you could see it already appearing now. So the participants will have the possibility to answer to a poll question. And will you have I think you have the honor to read it out loud now, the question.
Let's see, I think so, yeah. Well, I won't read it all up, but it is starting up with the poll. A multiple choice question, and then we have 2 more questions where we kindly would like you to ask you for important input, and I think that's because we really need to have your opinion and your experience as well. I can see in the chat that there are quite a lot of comments, and maybe we should put them up later on, but I think it's good for having your input and your experience also in this poll that we are presently doing. So, and as I understand, Anita, if you're now connected again, I think this session as whole will provide input for finalizing your joint paper on multi-level governance for the Baltic Sea region. So while you answer the question, I think I will introduce our panelists who will be reflecting under the themes. Or Anita, would you like to comment on my comment there? Or maybe we don't have Anita yet with us. Okay.
Yeah, but she's
well, I
also...
think we will...
Anita
yes?
is here with me on the stage, but I think she's just as curious as everyone else to the panelists. So while, as you mentioned, while our participants are answering the poll question, and they all see it next to the screen and they can still hear us, but meanwhile also answer to the question, please identify which of the presented governance steps have been most crucial and relevant in your practice. And later on, after the panel discussion, we will check the results. But now, well, Ingela, as you mentioned, it's time to announce the panelists.
Yes, so thank you. Could I have the picture of everyone joining the panel? If that's possible, that would be nice. Brilliant, that's good. I would like, we will, during this panel, we will be reflecting on the two different themes, engagement of stakeholders in governance process, planning and power sharing, and then we'll move on to a second theme, balancing competing interests and support from institutions for blue economy and development. So now I will warmly welcome our representatives from the national level. And on the national level, we have Donata Paulowski, and Donata is currently working in the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Lithuania, where she coordinates a team of spatial planning and urban development specialists to develop the state strategical and territorial planning document, the comprehensive plan of the whole Republic of Lithuania. And by education, Donata is an architect. Warmly welcome, Donata. And then also from the national level, warmly welcome as well, Tiina Tihlmann from Finland. She works at the Ministerial as an advisor at the Finnish Ministry of the Environment. And Tiina is in charge of international spatial planning cooperation, maritime spatial planning, and coastal management. So all the actually levels there. So, and by education, Tiina is a planning geographer. I think you need that when you need to work with different administrative levels. And Tiina is also a member of the European member states expert group on MSP, and also participating since a long time ago in the Baltic Sea Halkom Vasa MSP working group. And then moving on, warmly welcome as well to the regional level, where we have Matthew Richards from Poland. And Matthew is an urban planner, a geographer, and a spatial data scientist. And you work at the Transport and Technical Infrastructure, a team member of the Pomorski region in Poland. And you have been working on urban projects in Pomerian office for regional planning in Gdansk, specifically on the development plan for the Pomerian region and the metropolitan of Gdansk-Gdynia as well. And the other representative from the regional level is Anna Martinsson. She's a spatial planning at the County MSP Board of Blekinge. And Anna has been the bridge between national MSP and the 4 coastal municipalities in the County of Blekinge. And she works at the County MSP Board and is responsible for the management of national special interests and has a role to coordinate regional actors and give advice on how to harmonize. And then, last but not least, we also have the local level representative here, Inara Stalidanse from a municipality outside Riga. And Inara, she has a PhD in Economics. She's the head of the development and planning division at Kava municipality outside Riga, and you have a long experience, more than 20 years, in project and program monitoring and evaluation, and also working on local action groups since 2000. So I would like to move on to the first national level then, and pose my first question to the national level, to Tiina and Donata from Finland and from Lithuania, starting out with Donata from Lithuania. The MSP process requires engagements of stakeholders from various sectors and usually not just national institutions. So what do you think are the challenges in engaging all relevant stakeholders? What compromises, if any, where necessary? So I pose these questions to the both of you, and I would like to, Donata, please take the floor first. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello from Lithuania. Greetings. Nice to be here. Well, the main challenges I would name, I would say, are two. I heard what Anita was saying, and I really agree with her, with all the steps she made and all the ideas she pointed out. So one challenge is engaging all relevant stakeholders takes time and resources. Being able to make timely and relevant assessment of these processes is crucial. This communication plan. And it is significant to plan and evaluate what is needed. Well, all this communication strategy that we did with our comprehensive plan in Lithuania is really complex and very much alive and open. And we did 10 times or 20 times more what we were expected by the law. So one part was organizing all the workshops, forums, meetings, presentations, and discussions to also make exhibitions, meet regional councils, write personal invitations, create news feed and social platforms, create other convenient platforms to share information. And for sure, it is a useful and interesting part of this public open process. But we faced hard times too. Let's say during our process of public consultations of this comprehensive plan, we had more than 2,000 written form proposals from various institutions, public organizations, municipalities, and other stakeholders. These proposals covered all different kinds of themes, and what we did, we replied to all of them, informing whether we accept their proposals or reject them and why. And it took us a lot of time, a lot of effort to do so. And that's why I say evaluate what resources you will need. The second thing I would name is being able not to get lost in this diversity of opinions, not to get into too many details at the strategical level you are. That means always be prepared with strong arguments for your chosen solutions. Be open to adapt and elaborate what you already have. It's also important to have a critical and creative team on your board to pick out what's important and related to work with these ideas to sort ways out, which sometimes is a natural thing, but sometimes it's really hard. And well, regarding the experiences we had in the national institutions level with all the ministries, in the end of the day, it was the art of negotiations. We had made compromises, and there were several of them. And in some cases, we went through solutions sentence by sentence, word by word, number by number, until we found an agreement. In other levels, it was the art of coordinating a productive discussion That means not only to have opinions of different stakeholders said out loud and being heard, but to make conclusions and decisions, to maybe take some time and reflect on them later. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost of the task that you have for the discussion. And
thank you. Sorry, did you have anything else that you would like? Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
I would like to add that you don't have to be always so strict while dividing these levels of national or local, because for complicated decisions and situations, you have to put on the table arguments from scientists, experts, specialists, politicians also, and weigh them all, and only then make a decision, make a plan.
Thank you. And I think exactly what you're saying is that you need to have a very creative team. Yeah. You need to have that are really open for the discussions and the dialogue and ready to listen. Thank you. So Tiina, what are your experiences in Finland then?
Yes, thank you. I very much agree with Anita and Donata, everything they said, and I think I have to highlight a little bit our background, how we have organized MSP in Finland. While it's not done on national level, it's done by regional councils and on regional level, but they are not doing it only to their own area, but they have to cooperate with each other. And in fact, they do a national MSP. And the tricky thing is that there are 8 regional councils along the coast. And the coastline is long, it's about 1,000 kilometers long. So there is 2 challenges that organize this cooperation, and the long distances make it really difficult to participate in the workshops. The connections on the coastal area are not so good, and so it's difficult to participate. It demands a lot from the participants. And on general, I would like to highlight also that why MSP is on regional level. It's because regional councils, they are organizations which are drafting regional land use plans. So they have the planning task, and they also have a development task. So it fits very well. And one thing more is that they territorial waters belongs to their area. So they are very used to draft regional land use plans on territorial waters. So they are experienced. And I think this was a very good choice of us. And we did put on the law one paragraph. There are only 4 of them, but one is about cooperation and participation, and one is about the informing of the plan. And regional councils really participated, all stakeholders from all levels, not only to regional level, but some municipalities. I think that was a little bit tricky thing, because as municipalities are small and there are 60 of them, and they cannot always participate because they are so busy. But some participated, and then they organized regional, or can we say multi-regional almost, because there are on one planning area there are 4 regional councils, and then there are 2 + 2 regional councils, and 2 areas where there are 2 regional councils doing one plan, and all these 3 plans they put together. And and then they also, together with our ministry, they and we in the ministry, we organized national level workshops. And so there were all level workshops and also mixed, because it was not restricted anyhow who can participate. All who wanted, they could participate. And in addition to that, in the later phase, we also organized sectoral workshops, and there were different governance levels and institutions participating. So there were a lot of cooperation between governance levels and between sectors. And what was really key issues, what also Donata said, that you have to be open and listen very carefully, and you have to be creative. And in our case, there was really good, well-organized workshops and good materials. And the participants, actually stakeholders, they did the first drafts of the plan. So they really had to cooperate and negotiate with each other, and so they were really motivated. We were not asking questions of them; they had to do the work. And that
so they were actually. So I guess that they felt an ownership of the plan as well, I would guess.
Yes, I think
in the end, so there's a really good buy-in, I would say. And I think it's really interesting to hear the differences between Lithuania, not really differences, but a likeness as well. So thanks a lot, Tiina. We'll come back, and I would like to listen into the regional level, because as I'm myself is quite familiar with the Swedish process, I would like to hand over to the regional level, because the regional level, as you pointed out, Tiina, they have a role as being the bridge between national and local levels, so they are very important. And I would also like, because it looks a little bit different in Sweden. So Anna, could I please ask you to, as a national level, tends to favor general solutions and more a strategical level, and the local level tends to focus on specific local issues. So to what extent and how is it possible to find a common ground? I think Tiina gave us some hints there, but still, please speak on your experiences and your country and region. So Anna, please, the floor is yours.
Sorry, as you know, I'm not Anna, but sorry to interrupt the discussion, but to make it a bit more interactive and to get our viewers a bit more involved, we will do two things. We will add in the comment section, we will add two questions. I think two very important questions, because listening to you so far, I think these questions are quite crucial. So the first one will be, what are the main themes that should be addressed by the multi-level governance in coastal areas? And the second question we will add in the comment section is, what are the main issues with engaging stakeholders? Both of these questions will be in the comment section from the organizing part. And we invite you, dear participants, to answer them, but please do so with the reply function. So don't post it as a new comment so we don't lose it, but post it as a reply to our question so that we can collect them, we can gather them, and also use it afterwards. So these two questions to make the discussion even more interactive. And we also listen to you and we read carefully what you write in the comment section. So there was a suggestion that the poll question that me and Ingela announced previously actually should be a multiple choice, because it depends from the area, it depends from the country, and it is a really good suggestion. So what we have done is we have restarted the poll. The poll is now restarted, and you have an option to press multiple choices. So if you have voted already before, please go back to the poll, and you can now have the possibility to answer with multiple questions as well. This will definitely make this workshop and this session more interactive. But now, as Ingela already mentioned, the word goes to Anna.
Thank you, Edjas.
Thank you. As Ingela already pointed out, in Sweden we are maybe a bit bottom heavy compared to the rest of EU countries planning wise. The municipalities own the monopoly for planning as well as in the sea areas. So my role is a bit complex in some cases. The county administrative board is dual in our role. We are both an advisory agent as well as later on, as the plans are forming, we are reviewing the plans and representing the state interests. But I am very lucky to have amazing municipalities to work with, and we started very early, pushing them to make C-plan or an archipelagic plan, as we are a small county with for our size a long coastal area. And then we were very clear with our advisory role and pushing them to plan these areas, as the sea is very important. Later on, we took a step back as the plans were forming and the plan took a life of its own. But then it's also, like Ingela was talking about, I represent our interests on a national scale, which is not the most clear way always. But as I said, I have amazing municipalities and the work has been great. And now we are on our next phase, where we are looking how we can revise the plan, what did we miss last time, and what areas could we improve. So back to you, Ingela. It was very short.
Thank you, Anna. Short but very concise, so that's good. Thank you. I would like to move on to Matthew and to give your perspectives from Poland, from the region where you work.
Good morning, everyone. So in my opinion and in my small experience, regions should create a place to discussion. And I think that the best place to discussion between the local level and the national level is the possibility to create a new regional spatial plan. Regions should play the role of the moderator by giving a real or a virtual place, like now, in some regions, of course, which will be some kind of a meeting place for the local and the national level. Because we have not enough collaboration between the municipality and the region nowadays in Poland. Also, in my opinion, sometimes it's easier to cooperate with big national energy provider or other infrastructure companies, but it becomes much more difficult when it comes to local municipalities. Sometimes we have to educate local mayors or especially councillors what are the benefits of national investments, what are the disadvantages of these national investments. For example, now on our list is a plan of build the offshore wind farms with a power capacity about 11 gigawatts by 2040. Now, paradoxically, Polish Maritime Administration, mainly the Maritime Office, supervised by the minister, plays the role of being bridge between the governmental level in Warsaw and the local level in coastal areas. Also, planning on the regional level, preceded by good cooperation with national and local stakeholders, could be the best way to bring together interests from both sides. Only a properly prepared regional plan, taking into account the principle of sustainable development and being some kind of a guideline for local level, can be also, in my opinion, the natural bridge between local and national level. In Poland, we also need a stronger planning law with a limited role of special acts, special law, which are prepared only for selected investments and ignoring many valid spatial plans at the planning process. The Polish regional level has two instruments of creating spatial policy in regions. Municipalities are not legally bound to include in their planning documents most of the guidelines and good practices provided in our regional spatial development plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And I think what I hear from you also is that the region acts a little bit like a facilitator and the platform where people can meet. So you are like the oil in the process in Poland, making the gathering, if I understand it right. You're not, so I think so. So then I would like to move on to the local level. We all talk about the local level because it's there, it happens. And sometimes local governments usually have limited interests in maritime spatial planning, and in other cases not. But Kanikava municipality in Latvia, you have been very active in promoting coastal tourist interest. Could you tell us a little bit more about the interest of your municipality and how far from the shore you are allowed to plan, and also a little bit out of cooperation with other, maybe competing municipalities? So I would like to pass on the floor to you, Inara.
Greetings to everybody from sunny Tsarnikovo municipality. Yes, Tsarnikovo municipality has 19 kilometers long shore coast border. And for all of that, next is nature protected area, nature park. And in total, I would say it's close to 1/3 of our municipality area, which is covered by this nature park. So we are very popular for recreational activities, active tourism activities in nature. Families are coming for weekends to us a lot. And therefore, of course, we are interested in tourism. Mainly we develop it through different projects, through different EU projects. Maybe I would mention some of them. For example, we were participating in Interreg ESLAT project for hiking route along Baltic coast, which was developing route for hikers along the whole Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia coast. And it is bringing more and more hikers and tourists to our municipality. The other thing, what we want to do is to protect our area, and at the same time, people letting get in and getting into the nature. Therefore, we this year it will end. We are lead partner of Life Cohabit project, the main task of which was to develop a new nature plan for our nature park. And now Ministry of Environmental Protection and Regional Development is developing, based on these regulations, for a cabinet of ministers for this nature protective area. And both so to enjoy for people and to protect the dunes. This is very important. The other EU project was Central Baltic Interreg project Coast for Us, with this ended previous year. And there we participated together with other Vidzema Coast municipality, which is Salaspils municipality. And one of the ideas within the project was to develop a village plan. And these were first village plans in Latvia, where local villages were invited to understand themselves what they can do and what they would like to invite municipality to help them. This was a really good and interesting experience together with our Swedish partners, our Estonian partners, actually Tsarnikovo municipality is actively cooperating with all Vidzema municipalities on our coast. We are calling ourselves Waving Vidzeme, and it's for tourism development and also for infrastructure project developments, where for the project Waving Vidzeme, Tsarnikava is a lead partner, and this project is meant to preserve and protect culture and nature heritage. So again, all Vidzeme municipalities are involved there. And for this project, we are cooperating with Ministry of Environment and Protection and Regional Development, as well as with Ministry of Culture. So I would say that to contribute to local development, first of all, you need partners. You need partners along your area. So we are active with neighboring municipalities on the coast. It's important to have partners also from other countries, like we were doing it with Estonian partners and Swedish partners to learn from each other, to overtake experiences from other countries. And it's important that ministry can summarize and oversee these local activities, and maybe later on coming out with proposals on regional and national level. So Ingela, I'm back.
Thank you, Inara. Brilliant. It sounds like a very good dialogue between the national and local level here, and also it's lovely to hear, and I really appreciate. I think it's so important you mention it with the enabler of having EU-funded projects and being able to engage. I guess is that crucial for you, or is it? Would you have done it yourself, do you think?
It's really crucial, not only because of funding, but it's also because of thematic importance, like cultural, natural heritage. It's very important for our municipality, which is coastal area, which is fish fishing area. Mm-hmm. So we can preserve and develop it.
Brilliant. With a good sustainable future. So we have nearly half an hour left, and I would like to move over to the next thing, unless Edgars, you have something else. Really nice that you managed to. I've seen the whole flow of comments, and Edgars, do you have anything that you would like to add on before we move on for short and quick answers for the final questions?
Well, I would suggest we could have a quick look at the workload and see if that has changed during the discussion. How does that sound?
That sounds like a good plan. Let's do.
All right, let's have a look at the poll first.
Okay, do so.
And with the change that we allowed with the multiple choice selections, the results changed actually quite rapidly. And we could see now that the stakeholder recognition and mapping is the obvious leader. And the rest is following with about more or less the same amount of voices. But it's obvious that stakeholder recognition and mapping has double the votes as all the other options. What do you, Ingela, and what do the other panelists have to say about that?
So is there any of the panelists who would like, can you see the poll? Because it was quite small for me, so I can't really see it. Is there anyone who would like to comment on that before we move on to the final questions? So what did you say? You say that it's step 3, recognition and mapping, and I think that's quite a lot to do with building trust. And also to increase engagement, exactly as Tiina said early on, the importance of engaging and having the local level actually writing and doing the plan and contributing to the work and being part of the process. I think it reflects, I would say it says, and I can also see that Marie from Finland just said, build trust and keep stakeholders motivated. And yeah, I can see all of you adding on to that. The process needs to be adaptive, learn on the way, and let the influence of the process. Thank you, Susanne. So what do you say, Edgar? Should we move on to the final question then?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left, but still many things to discuss, so let's give them one more voice.
Yes, please. So I think if I could kindly ask you to be very quick and concise. I wanted to give you some more time in the beginning there, but now we will try to keep it more concise. So I will post back again to the national level, to Donata and Tiina. And the final question for you, what are the main competing interests of traditional sea use sectors and new emerging ones in your country? And what have been compromises that you might have been able to do? So I start up with you, Donata, please.
Okay. Okay, so what should be mentioned before answering this question is that in Lithuania we have an integrated plan when maritime territories are planned along with inland territories. And moreover, we integrated our comprehensive plan into national strategical document system in order to have financial tools and strengthen the possibilities of implementation of this plan. And getting back to the questions, so in our case, when we're having all this whole territory, the main colliding and competing interests were more in the coastal zone than the sea itself. But basically, I think it's all the same sectors as anywhere else. Well, on one hand, we have port activities. On the other hand, we have protected areas and residential territories, and we have conflicts there. And we try to find the best measures to adapt and to avoid these conflicts for them to coexist together, or maybe to sometimes put it in a side. So offshore renewable energy and fishing and shipping is also on two hands colliding and discussing. Tourism and military territories also. Natural resources, cultural heritage, so you can name a long list of those interests, but I think, I don't know if it's because we have this short coastline, but everyone wants to have their interests represented. Everyone wants to be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the case. But and that's what you mentioned also, the balance between. Thank you, Donata. I think I will move on to Tiina and hear a little bit more about the conflicts between competing interests of traditional users and new emerging ones in Finland. Could you mention a little bit about that, Tiina, please?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I think the same way as Donata, that it's about the same as on land. but on the other hand, I think the most obvious is so far, if we think traditionally, so far we have not had so many wind energy on maritime area. But those ones which they are smaller ones, and they are along the coast where people are living and where recreational use is very heavy. So that is a conflict sometimes. And now in the planning process, there was a lot of discussion about aquaculture and the state of waters. So it's nearly impossible to place aquaculture along the coast. So we resulted to move aquaculture and also wind energy to outermost regions, to open sea. But aquaculture entrepreneurs or fishermen, which are about the same in Finland, they were not so satisfied with this solution. So we still have the conflict in a way. And now I think it's a little bit tricky when wind energy is a new development and we want to reach all the green goals of EU and so on. So we have maritime spatial plans, but still it's tricky when, especially on economic zone, it's based on permitting. So it might be that those who comes first, they are first served, and it's not maybe always in line with the MSP. So this might be then a conflict, while in MSP we have made a lot of work for finding the most suitable areas and a lot of cooperation and so on. So it's,
Yeah, so the kind of the... Yeah, so the MSP have provided with the path forward, maybe, but then still there are lots of work to be done, yes. I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Tiina. And also then I will move on to the regional level again, very short and concise as well. What is the role of the regions? And now I know this is some difference here between Sweden and Poland. I will start up with Matthew this time. So the role of the regions supporting blue economy, if you could be short there.
Yeah, it's not an easy question, but for sure there is a possibility to balance competing sectoral interests. Regions, especially in Poland, can support blue economy in the easiest way through the institutions, work like development funds, like development agencies, or by distributing European funds to blue economy investors, or by preparing good local spatial plans in cooperating with local communes to situate new, for example, infrastructure or new places to expand seaports. For example, to place their offshore wind farm services companies or teams. Also, the other way, like in the first question, is education and dialogue conducted during the meetings between the team from my Pomeranian office for regional planning and representation of local stakeholders, usually the major, accompanied by urban planners working for the commune, for the municipality. During these meetings, we are talking not only about the preparation process of a local planning document, but mainly in Polish situation about the soft provisions of the Pomeranian regional special plan, guidelines and good practices, also for special planning process on the seaside. But it's very hard, it's not an easy to explain that building up the entire coast is short-sighted, and in the long run it will contribute to loss of attractiveness of local coastal and maritime tourism. On the Polish seaside, we can see how many businesses want to use more public space along the coast, often looking only at their own business. So it's really very, very, very hard.
I guess you as a region need to be like, again, the facilitator and advice on the best available places in the region.
Yeah, exactly. So finding a possibility to balance the sectoral interests and giving a chance to grow in a blue economy. It's not an easy. We have also some kind of nature protected areas, which can be designated by the region in Poland. And it's our contribution to protect some areas to don't lose the attractiveness of our coastline. Thank you.
Thank you. So Anna, I hand over to you. I know that the County Council Board is actually directly under the government. So you're in a way a national government, but on a regional level. And you also have the regional council. Maybe you should start up with saying just slightly about that.
Yeah, exactly. We are, as Ingela said, directly under the government, and we also have another regional organ that works with these issues, such as blue economy. But as I was talking about before, this is a very wide concept, and as we usually represent the state interests in planning, blue economy is in a way a piece of the puzzle in many other aspects. And I think, again, it's important to remember that we need to have an open dialogue, high ceilings in our discussion, and not be afraid to contact each other. On a regional level, it's easy, and we often say to the municipalities that they need to work together and they need to talk to each other. They share the coast, they share the water, they need to talk with their common interests. But this also applies to us on a regional level. Within the regions, working with different questions, see how we have common goals and how we can tackle them with our different knowledges. And also on a national level, that we need to have a dialogue with each other, even especially in this wider strategic sense of questions. And as Matthew was talking about, we also have many interests along the coast and in the water, such as the army and defense, and we have the nature reserves and the renewable wind energy situation. There are many interests that need to come to talk, and we need to work as a bridge and to help each other to make the best of it.
Thank you, Anna. And then finally, I would like to move over to the local level, to Inara. Could you please reflect a little bit on the cooperation and the importance of a blue economy and how it involves in your area? Please, Inara.
Yes, municipality can develop infrastructure. And if we develop infrastructures, then local businesses follow it. And this is saying what we do from our municipality budget and, of course, using EU funds. And I can say some examples. For example, we develop promenade path to the coast, almost 2 kilometers long, and constructed a car parking place next to it, and which is very busy. Of course, because of COVID as well, but I think because of our recreational facilities. And this year we have 2 mobile cafes around it. And there is a construction on the next plot of permanent cafe, what is local businesses are developing. And also we received information that local people are interested to set up bike hiring places, so people can come and rent a hire bike and go along the area. And actually, yesterday, municipality submitted a project proposal for local action group for construction of pontoons. So we have River Gauja, and that's Gauja. So people are interested to have a place where they can stop with their boat or use SUP. So it's again, if we have infrastructure developed by municipalities, so local businesses can continue with their own activities. And for example, also one local business previous year received funding from a Maritime and Fishing Fund to build a boat. And now to our municipality pontons, they can have a stop place and cannot take clients. So I think the task for municipality is not to be involved in businesses itself, but just to create infrastructure to help local people to develop their own businesses. Looking for support from a regional level, I would say that yes, we participate close with Riga planning region, and within the smart specialization strategies, there was a pilot project. And here on our Tsarnikovo beach, as pilot project was installed smart bench, which is bench with solar panels, where people can charge their phones. So it's looking quite nice, and people are making photos there. So yes.
Sounds really. I think you also talked something about when we pre-talked before this meeting. You talked something about that you have something they call walk and talk. Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes,
I think it's really nice.
It's regards the question if we would like to have cooperation with neighboring municipalities and take over their experiences. And I would say yes, within Project Coast for us, with our Swedish partners, we overtake from them experience for local planning. And this was walk and talk method when local people were involved in planning activities, and they walk around their village talking themselves. Maybe they were just before saying hello to each other, but they were not speaking so much what's important in their village. And over that day, walking around, making photos of their village, they decide what are the things, what they can do themselves to improve their village life, and what they would like to ask municipality to help them. And that resulted in the project that municipality developed wooden paths for that village to the coast. As they say, this is the first priority for them, what they need.
Thank you for sharing, Inara. Really nice to hear. And I would say thank you to all of you panelists. We are moving to the end of this session. And so I would really thank you, all of you, for providing us with lots of insights from the local level, from the regional level, and as well as the national level, and how these are connected to each other. It's like an elevator. We're going up and down, and we need to collect all the inputs from the different sectors and from the different perspectives. And you never know who will enter the elevator. So you have to be adaptive, and you need to follow what's happening. So, Edgars, do you think we should create a new word cloud just to see how, if people think that things have, they think this with the same question, what now comes to your mind, the most important thing for good governance?
I think it's a brilliant idea because and as you corrected yourself, I think let's put on the same word cloud and see if this discussion and these different opinions from regional, national levels have changed the opinion of our viewers. So, dear online participants, right now in 3, 2, 1, you have actually the same word cloud as we had while opening this discussion with the same question, but we are curious if your answers have changed during the almost 1.5 hours that we have spent together now. So, not to confuse, you have the poll, and we already had a look at that. You have the comment section with all the different comments and questions from your side, and also the ones that we asked you. But right now, we are bringing back the word cloud. Well, the work cloud in the word cloud. We are bringing back the cloud, and we are looking forward to your answers. And I think we will be even able to as you can see it on the screen, we will be able to compare them. Because in the first part of asking you this question, dialogue and cooperation, and afterwards even goodwill jumped in the bronze position. So these three, as we discussed with Ingela, all of the mentioned things are crucial, but these three were the leading ones. Let's see if dialogue, cooperation, and goodwill will be the same crucial issues also now, after listening to all of our panelists, or has your opinion changed? Ingela, what do you think? Will the answers be different?
Actually, I think they will be quite similar because I think it's been very stressed from all the panelists, the importance of having a good dialogue and talking to each other, being open-minded, have a high ceiling, and really listen in to all the levels, and also not just listen in, but building up the trust. So I think that will still be in the center. So let's see.
I agree with you, because I think that's what we also heard during this panel discussion, is listening to each other and also understanding the issues that the others have in national and regional level. But so far, it seems that we do have another leader in the word cloud.
Wow.
And that is the word change, that some of you also mentioned during this discussion. So we have the three words currently leading the word cloud is dialogue still, continuing to be our crucial issue, but also the word change and the word solutions. So we still give you, dear participants, a few more minutes to vote on this, but of course what we will do, we will save your word options, and we will save this for later on. Of course, the results will be used for future improving the community and the work that all of you are doing. Ingela, if I could just technically wrap it up, because two moderators in two different countries, one live, one online, and we had 5 panelists, and we have poll questions, and we had word clouds, 2 even of them. But I think we did a brilliant and smooth job, I have to say, especially you bringing this all together. So also thanks from my side to the panelists, but even greater thanks to you by summing this up and really bringing this all together.
Thanks a lot, Edgar. Yeah, I think we really did it. It was a good teamwork, I would say. And also behind the scene, we have Martins from the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Regional Development in Latvia, who has been doing a great pre-work. So all the best. And Anita, thanks you a lot also for giving us a good platform for the beginning. I think it's been lots of just buzzwords that I would like to say. Local communities, closer view, that's where things happen. National authorities, broader view and strategic view. And then having the transnational and inspiring from other countries on different levels, as was mentioned by Inara, with working with other countries, with other municipalities at the same level. What are they facing for kind of challenges, and how can we support each other to actually come to very innovative solutions? So I would like to say thank you to all the panelists for all your wise words, and also thank you to you, Edgar, and over to you, and thanks a lot to everyone, and also the ones who have participated and giving large and nice input in the notes. Thank you.